Hello, everyone, and welcome to the NFL version of Proline, direct from Las Vegas. This is going to be our Super Bowl edition, one of two editions. We're going to have a prop show available too. But first, we're going to start with a look at the matchup here in the Super Bowl after the AFC and NFC title games. The home team won both. If you remember, when the playoffs started, the road teams won the first four games. Well, since then, the home team has gone 6-0, including the underdog Denver Broncos winning on Sunday. However, you can throw that out the window as this game is at a neutral site in Santa Clara. Here are the betting lines for the Super Bowl before last week's games, or I should say this matchup. Carolina Panthers were -3 if they matched up against Denver, with a total of 43. So what do we see for a number? It's higher than that. Carolina anywhere from 4 to 5 point favorite, and the total too has gone up from 45 to 45.5. First thing to note about that is the game is in Santa Clara, and the weather, the early weather reports don't look very good. Doesn't look bad, but there is a chance of about 40% light showers. So that's something to look for over the next couple of weeks. Keep an eye on that Super Bowl weather. We haven't had bad weather since that Colts Chicago game back in 2006-07 when there was some rain. So there could be some for this Super Bowl. But why did that betting line move from the original 3 to now up to 5 in Carolina? Well, it's because of what happened on Sunday. Denver had a tug-of-war game with the Patriots where it was low scoring. Even though they won, Denver didn't look that good in a lot of phases of the game outside of a phenomenal defensive effort. Meanwhile, Carolina, they just throttled a very strong all-around Arizona team, particularly on defense. That's a great Arizona defense. And Carolina just went absolutely bananas. They dominated the game. Let's start with that. Carolina rolled up 476 yards against Arizona. Terrific all-around defensive team. Arizona only had 287 yards. They dominated the time of possession by a whopping margin. They were able to run the football on that Arizona defensive line, which was quite a surprise. 260 yards rushing they had. Arizona fell behind early, could only rush for 60 yards. The turnover battle was a huge edge, as well as the halftime score of 24-7. Really, it was just a half of a football game. Arizona fell way behind, had no shot of coming back, despite the fact that they have a veteran quarterback who was off a great season and 3 terrific wide receivers. They couldn't come back, which shows you how talented and in many respects underrated this Carolina defense is. But I can't imagine they're going to be underrated after these two very impressive playoff performance after rolling up 31 first-half points against the Seattle Seahawks. It was 34. But regardless, it was an absolute whitewash against one of the best defenses in the NFL. So this Carolina team deserves to be dominant like they have been all season, only one defeat. They deserve to be getting a lot of respect. And I suspect they will be because some of the early numbers we see in Vegas, 80% of the tickets being written on the Super Bowl, 80% have been in Carolina. And that's going to be interesting because it'll force the number up unless the wise guys make up their mind and come in backing the underdog, and that'll kind of balance out the action. But right now, we may be looking at Carolina getting the money for the next 2 weeks, which may move it up. One thing impressive about the Carolina win was Cam Newton with his arm. First of all, 19 of 28 passing, 335 yards against that great Arizona defense. Only sacked one time. He had 2 touchdowns, 1 pick. Wouldn't be surprised to see him throw an interception in the Super Bowl because he can throw some passes that are erratic or bad decisions at times. And this is a great Denver secondary he'll be throwing in. But also that other element to his game, running the football. What did he do against the very good Arizona defense? 47 yards rushing, 4.7 yards per carry. This guy is a remarkable all-around talent, your prototypical 21st century type player, just a monster physical talent. We just don't see that kind of size in quarterbacks, but he is one of them, and he certainly is the whole package, the real deal. And then you got the New England-Denver game. It went pace-wise exactly what Denver wanted. They got out early with a nice first quarter throwing the football, which is what they've done most of the season. And then they say, well, we're just going to sit on this lead. We're not going to try to score too many more points. They ended up, Denver did, at home with just 244 total yards. They really didn't try to get a lot of yards and points. They tried to limit turnovers with their quarterback, Peyton Manning, who has had a bad year, 7 touchdowns and 19 interceptions. But hey, that strategy worked. It worked against Pittsburgh in the first round of the playoffs, and now worked against A New England team and a Hall of Fame quarterback. New England had 336 total yards, but if you watch the game, it was total domination, really, by the Denver defense. New England, 2 of 15 on third down with all of the targets that Brady has to go to. They couldn't do anything on third down. They had 0 rushing game. It was complete domination up front by Denver, and they were harassing Brady. He had no shot as far as sacks, as far as waiting to get open targets. The game was won and dominated by the Denver defense, which is fine with the Broncos. Some of the other numbers overall, Denver on third down efficiency was terrible, 6 of 17. And you have to wonder, if they get into the Super Bowl game and they get behind, what are they going to do? Can they open it up? And that's going to be the big question. But in the end, Tom Brady was harassed, 27 of 56 passing, 310 yards. A lot of that came late. 4 sacks officially and a lot of hits. 1 touchdown and 2 interceptions. It was the Denver defense that dominated the game. And the Denver running attack was good enough. C.J. Anderson, 72 yards rushing, 4.5 yards carry. Didn't get any help from Ronnie Hillman, just 16 yards, 1.5 yards per carry, but they did have 1 big break. So overall, it was good enough in that effort. So what are we going to see in this Super Bowl? Well, here's some of the early numbers. You got a Denver team that is 14-4 straight up. They've been covering games 9-7-2 against the spread. They've also been dominant team under the total with this new style. Now 10-5-1 under the total after that AFC Championship game went under. We will see a starter with Peyton Manning at age 39. He's going to be 40 in about 6 weeks. And off of that bad year, if we have to see Brock Osweiler, he's 25 years old. Pretty good arm, 10 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. Pretty good for decision making for a young guy. The thing about Denver, they have really talented skill position players. I mentioned the 2 running backs already, but let's not forget the wide receivers. Demaryius Thomas, over 1,300 yards receiving. Emmanuel Sanders, he's 28 years old. He had over 1,100 yards. So it's a very good 1-2 punch. And then Owen Daniels was a big factor early on with a couple of early touchdown passes. He was wide open. He's a very capable target. He's not some chump. So they got 3 targets they can go to. They just don't utilize them as much because they prefer a ball control type of game. And John Elway, the general manager, basically brought in the new coach, Gary Kubiak, this year, and he said, look, I want to run the football more. I want you to bring in your zone blocking, which you learned under Mike Shanahan when he had all that success here. And that they have. It's been no secret at all. What they haven't done is run really that effectively all year. What are they ranking? 17th in the NFL in rushing. Lost their best offensive tackle, Ryan Clady, early on. Actually, it was in August, before the season started. They haven't been as good as they wanted to, and that's a big part of the reason. And their defense, their passing game, 14th in passing. They haven't tried to pass as much. And as a result, you got a team that is 19th in the NFL in points scored, just 22.4 points per game, very close to what they had in the AFC title game with 20. The defense, though, leads this team, number 4 in the NFL in points. They're number 1 in rushing, and they're going to get a good challenge in the Super Bowl coming up soon. And they are number 1 against the pass, so they can control and shut down anybody in the NFL. They've already done it against great passing teams, Pittsburgh and Ben Roethlisberger, and now Brady, so they are more than capable of a challenge from the Panthers and their number 1 ranked scoring offense. New England just 2 of 15 on third down, and when they played Pittsburgh a couple weeks ago in the playoffs, Ben Roethlisberger had 339 yards, but note, Pittsburgh was just 2 of 12 on third down. Big Ben had no touchdown passes that game, and he was sacked 3 times. So this Denver defense is very talented, deserves to be number 1, and they could lead them to a title. Carolina Panthers, remarkable story this year, 60-1 in Vegas before the season started to win the Super Bowl, and here they are, 17-1 straight up record. The only loss was a late season game against Atlanta where it was close all the way. They could have won that. 13-5 against the spread. If you go back to last year, Carolina is on a 20-1 straight up run. So this is not just a fluke season. They started late last year while winning that division title, 3rd straight division title. And now here they are in the Super Bowl. A lot of balance across the board, 11-4 against the spread. So you can say they've been undervalued by odds makers for much of the year. And the numbers on Carolina are just incredible. Number 2 in the NFL in rushing the football, 142.6 yards per game. They're 23rd in passing, but as you saw with Cam Newton on Sunday, when they try to pass, they're pretty good. 224 yards per game, all of which resulted in the number one scoring offense in the league with 31.3 points per game. Cam Newton does have sensational numbers for the year, so he's going to win MVP. 35 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, and he can run the football with those dynamic legs, 636 yards rushing. He has a very good target in his tight end, Greg Olsen, star player with over 1,100 yards receiving. But Teddy Ginn has been very good too, 739 yards. We saw a healthy Jonathan Stewart in that game Sunday, 989 yards for the season. And then you got the strength of their team is defense. Just sensational across the board. They can stuff the run. Number 4 against the run for the entire NFL regular season. They're number 6 in points allowed, just 19.3 points per game. And they're number 6 in total yards. So this is not a fluke that they're here. They have been the best team in the NFL. Thing about the defense, it can put their offense in great field position, but it can also force turnovers as well as getting after the quarterback. Carolina led the NFL in interceptions with 21. They led in takeaways with 33, and they led the NFL with 4 picks taken back for touchdown, pick sixes during the regular season with 4. And then Luke Kuechly added 2 more in the postseason, so that's 6 if you count the playoffs. Just remarkable, the number of pick sixes. And they're going to be facing a Denver quarterback rotation, or at least with Peyton Manning to start anyway, who has thrown quite a few interceptions this year. So that'll be interesting. There are 2 playoff games, 31-24 over Seattle, in which they had that early 31-0 lead at the half and really just sat on it after that. And then Cam Newton was very good in that game, 16 of 22 passing, 1 TD, 1 sack, and no interceptions. And then the rout against Arizona, that was a very strong Arizona team, 49-15 final, 476 yards. The defense gave up just 287 yards. The Panther offense was 8 of 14 on third down. Arizona just 3 of 10 on third down, and a whopping rushing edge. Arizona had only 60 yards rushing, 3.8 yards per carry. Carson Palmer, a veteran quarterback with a great year, but boy, he was running for his life. 1 touchdown, 4 interceptions, and 3 sacks. Carolina, when they face a team with a winning record, 27-1 over the total. When we look at the Super Bowl, it's been the AFC of late. They've won 11 of the last 18 Super Bowls. It was the Ravens 3 years ago, and then the Patriots last year. And the underdog, too, is 10-4 against the spread over the last 14 years. That's something Denver can lean on. So what type of style are we going to see in this Super Bowl? Well, it's clear what the Denver Broncos are going to do. It's worked all year from them. Play ball control, try to get an early lead, even if it's a small lead, like 13-3 or something, and then just protect it. They've got a terrific punter. They're happy playing the field position battle. They're outstanding at forcing turnovers. They had 2 against the Patriots on Sunday. And then they can turn that into field position. Even when they don't get points out of it, they're happy just to punt, put the opposition deep in their own territory, like the 10 or 20-yard line, and then if they force them to go 3 and out, you're going to get the ball at your own 40, and that's fine with them. It's worked all year for the most part, and it worked in the AFC title game. I don't expect them to change that. The thing is, if they get behind early, can they change that style? Well, we did see Peyton Manning throw the football early against the Patriots. That's how they get out to that lead of 14-6. Found Owen Daniels over the middle, and he looked good throwing that football. But then they got away from it when they get the lead. So they are capable of doing it with very talented skill position targets, but for the most part, they haven't really tried it for an entire 4 quarters because that's not their style. What kind of style is Carolina going to do? Actually, they can do whatever style the game dictates. That's one of the beauties of this Panther team, their flexibility, their talent, their depth, and their flexibility. If they fall behind, they are content to push up tempo and ask Carolina or ask Cam Newton to throw the football more. They did that on the road at Seattle against the great Seattle secondary. They were behind in the 4th quarter. Newton led them back with a couple of late touchdown passes. They also had a wild offensive game, a couple of them against the Colts and against the Saints. They won those games by throwing the football, going up-tempo in wild shootout games. If it comes to be a plodding defensive game where you have ball control, Carolina is great at doing that too. And they dominated this outstanding Arizona offense in a blowout game. They've won a lot of blowout games as well. So they can play any style, whereas Denver is going to want to play only one style of play. So that'll be interesting. All right, if you're looking for some prop bets on the game, we're going to have a Super Bowl prop show coming up. Plus, Jim Feist has plays on the game. He already has a high roller release on the side. You can find that available now, an early play at jimfeist.com. Get that before the line moves. And make sure you tune in for our Super Bowl show. We're going to have some free prop bets for you, as well as some more analysis on the Super Bowl. That'll do it for this week's version of Proline. Make sure you look for that Super Bowl prop show, and we'll see you.